Hey everyone. So if you've been following the markets, you know it's just a total mess of mixed signals, right? You've got headlines screaming about economic doom right next to stories about the market hitting all-time highs. So what is the real story for 2026? Well, that's what we're here to do. Cut through all that noise and find this signal.
Okay, let's just park on this for a second. This one sentence from CLA's 2026 Outlook, it perfectly captures what we're talking about. Because underneath all that noise, all that negative feeling in the air, the actual economic data is telling a completely different story. And we're going to unpack exactly what that story is.
So here's our goal today. It's simple, really. We're going to cut through the chatter, we're going to ignore the panic, and instead, we're going to tune in to the real signals. The ones coming from the hard economic data and the massive tech trends that are literally reshaping our world. This is all about finding some clarity.
All right, so let's start at the beginning, with the bedrock of it all. Let's forget the headlines for a second. What is the actual data telling us about the U.S. economy? Well, it turns out the forecasts are pointing to a surprisingly solid foundation for growth.
First thing to look at, growth. That's the big one, right? After a bit of a slowdown, U.S. GDP is actually projected to pick back up to a really solid 2.2%. And this isn't just plodding along. That's actually an above-trend rate of growth. A big reason for that is the expectation that policy will start to create a better environment for businesses and people to spend and invest again.
Now, what about inflation? Look, it's the question on everybody's mind. And the data suggests it's probably going to hang out a little above the Fed's 2% target. But, and this is the key part, the crazy runaway prices we've been dealing with, that intense pressure is expected to ease up. So yeah, it's persistent, but it's also stabilizing. That's a huge difference.
And that brings us to jobs. Hiring is definitely cooling off, no surprise there, with unemployment forecast to tick up just a bit to 4.5%. But, and this is so important, the market is still fundamentally strong. That's a huge reason why the data points to a really low risk of a recession. That foundation, it's holding up. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. Let's talk about bonds. For a while there, fixed income was, well, it was a tough place to be, right? But look at the turnaround. We're talking about bonds actually acting like bonds again, stabilizing your portfolio. And the yields, the real yields after you account for inflation, they're at the most attractive levels we've seen in almost 20 years. That's a huge shift. So you've got this stable, cautiously optimistic economy. It's not just sitting there. It's actually the perfect launchpad for what is, without a doubt, the single biggest driver of growth and investment on the planet right now, artificial intelligence. And we're not just talking about AI as some far-off concept anymore. We are smack in the middle of the era of applied AI. And that is a game changer. It means AI is moving past the hype and is now a core part of business strategy. You can actually see it in the earnings reports, in how fast companies are innovating, and in their actual cash flow. This is real.
And you have to understand, the AI revolution isn't just one thing. It's this entire ecosystem. It all starts with the chips, right? The tiny brains. Then it moves out to edge AI. That's the intelligence in your phone, your car. All of that relies on these massive data centers, which are the backbone of the whole thing. And finally, you get the software. The stuff that's actually changing how every single company does business. So all this AI-driven growth has led to something, frankly, kind of mind-blowing. Just look at this. The 10 biggest companies in the US, mostly tech, of course, they now make up almost a quarter of the value of the entire global stock market. Let that sink in. The level of dominance is just, it's hard to even wrap your head around.
So this naturally brings us to the multi-trillion-dollar question for anyone looking to invest in 2026. If all that value is already locked up in a handful of giant companies, where's the next big opportunity? Where do we go from here?
So how do we answer that? Well, the key thing to realize is that the next big thing isn't just hiding in one obvious spot. With some stocks already priced to perfection, you have to be selective. You absolutely have to be. It's all about looking past the giants and seeing the contrasts in the market.
And what's so fascinating is that the experts are seeing potential all over the map. You've got the high-flying tech and AI leaders, yeah, they're still powerhouses. But at the exact same time, you have these classic value sectors, think energy, financials, industrials, that could get a massive tailwind from a recovering economy and lower interest rates. But one area that keeps popping up again and again when you talk to experts, it's smaller companies. As investors start to hunt for bigger returns, they're naturally going to start looking beyond the mega caps, and that puts small cap growth stocks in a really interesting position.
So let's make this real, okay? Think about a company like Magnite.
They're a huge player behind the scenes in the connected TV ad market, for all the streaming services you watch. Or a company like Amplitude, they provide the analytics that let big brands like Peloton figure out what their customers actually want. These aren't just ideas. They're companies in fast-growing specific niches. Okay, but what if you're a little nervous about trying to pick the next big AI software winner? I get that. There's another really cool strategy here. It's called a pick and shovel play. Think back to the gold rush. The people who got rich weren't always the ones finding gold. It was the people selling the picks and shovels. We're talking about investing in the companies that supply the tools for the AI revolution.
And Danaher is a perfect example of this. They don't take on the insane risk of trying to develop a blockbuster drug. No way. Instead, they sell the essential tools, the instruments, the supplies that all the labs need for their AI-powered research. The more experiments everyone else runs, the more money Danaher makes. It's a beautiful, brilliant model.
And look, we can't forget about the big dogs, right? The established global leaders. These are the platforms with massive competitive advantages, what they call moats, and they just keep generating enormous amounts of cash.
You've got companies like Amazon, which is just pouring AI into every corner of its business to get more efficient and more profitable, from shopping to ads to its monster AWS cloud platform. And then there's Mercado Libre, basically the Amazon of Latin America, which is just crushing it in the fastest-growing e-commerce market in the world. Analysts think both of these still have a ton of room to run.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about the economy, the AI megatrend, and some really specific places to look for opportunity. So what are the big takeaways? What are the key rules of the road for navigating the market in 2026?
All right, here's your checklist. Number 1, diversification is still king. You got to have that balance between growth and value. Number 2, you have to be selective. Just because a stock is well known doesn't mean it's a buy at any price. Number 3, focus on the fundamentals. Really look past the hype to see if the company is actually growing its earnings and has a solid balance sheet. And finally, number 4, get it in your head that AI is a catalyst for every sector, not just tech. You have to understand how it's changing the game everywhere.
And that right there is really the fundamental question for 2026, isn't it? The data is telling a very different story from the day-to-day headlines, a story that is packed with opportunity. The challenge for all of us, and really the key to success, is going to be our ability to tune out that noise and find the signal. Thanks for watching.